study, and it seems to be growing, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, it's 6 o'clock. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Don't take too much time from David. So, the creator and inventor of the Cellerciser. If you haven't had one or have one, it's an awesome piece of equipment. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the time over to David and let him explain more and answer any questions you guys have. So let's get up for David.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I want to thank everybody in Webville for tuning in as well. What we're going to be talking about tonight is literally a methodology that is totally different from anything you've ever been introduced to as far as exercise is concerned. We've been taught for years that you have to tear down to build up. You've heard that?
Yep.
When you tear down to build up, they tell you to do it every other day because the body literally has to heal itself. You'll never see a dog, cat, monkey, or any kind of animal out there in the animal kingdom pumping iron weights or doing some of these insane exercise programs that you see on television. And yet they're still very strong and healthy. So the idea of tearing down to build up, it actually weakens your body. Your body now has to repair itself. It's in a weakened state, it's under stress, you're more susceptible to illnesses. Most people don't have time to do that. It's a manipulation of the body, and we know how to manipulate it. So the idea of tearing down to build up, no pain, no gain, we've heard that. That's most of us have learned that that's not a good idea. You've got to do 20 minutes of aerobics. Have you heard that?
Yep.
Do your cells have watches? Do you think 20 minutes means anything to a cell? No, but it's a great way to sell tennis shoes because it wears out the shoes. How about the idea you've got to sweat to get a good exercise? As if sweating had anything to do with exercise. It basically all it means is that the body's overheating, and that's how it cools itself down. Well, the typical fitness industry would have you believe that you have to target all these muscle groups and body parts in order to get stronger, and they have to encourage you to continue to believe that because that's how they make their money. You've got the wedges, abdominal boards, rowers, ski toners, porta bike, fitness climbers, stairmasters, health riders, Nordic track, Schwinn airlines, life cycle, life force, stomach crunches, thigh masters, ab blasters, solo flex, treadmill, cyclone, body gym, toning gym, torso track, Bowflex, gazelles. And the list goes on. And as long as we buy into that methodology, we can rest assured every 6 months or so, the fitness industry is going to find another way of packaging another piece of exercise equipment just a little differently to motivate you to add to your ongoing collection, because frankly, that's how they make their money. And yet the premise upon which every single piece of exercise equipment is based is exactly the same. They all work by applying weight or stress to a certain part, function, or muscle group over and over until they adapt by becoming stronger. And all those muscles are made up of what?
Cells.
Cells. So suppose there was one exercise which, instead of lifting weight away from gravity over and over, which limits the effect to the muscle doing the lifting, what if instead of lifting weight away from gravity, you can increase the weight of gravity on every single cell membrane throughout your entire body and do it over 100 times a minute, strengthening all your muscles all at the same time, but going well beyond that. Reduce body fat, firm your legs, thighs, hips, and buttocks, strengthen your arms, increase agility, improve balance, rhythm, timing, dexterity, hand-eye coordination, provide an aerobic activity for your cardiovascular system, rejuvenate your body when you're tired. But it's something that would go well beyond that. It's being featured more and more now in health magazines, books, and articles as being effective in helping to lower high blood pressure, helping to reverse hardening of the arteries, the #1 degenerative disease, helping to lower elevated cholesterol and triglyceride levels. That stimulates the thyroid, the adrenals, and the endocrine system. Helps to detoxify the liver, improve kidney circulation, digestion, elimination, loosen up the lower back, increase oxygen blood flow to the brain, open up capillaries, being used by a number of ophthalmologists to help revitalize vision. But it goes even beyond that. It's the only exercise that I believe can claim to be an isometric for toning from the inside out. Most exercises work the vanity muscles or from the outside in. Well, when muscles get weak, they sag. When internal organs get weak, they drop. Well, internal organs are surrounded by connective tissues, and when they get weak, just like a muscle, everything starts to get softer. Cellercise helps to lift, tighten, and tone, but it does it from the inside out. Isometric, isotonic is weight bearing, but the weight is not limited. It's on every single cell of your entire body over 100 times a minute. So every muscle, bone, connective tissue, ligament, tendon, skin, collagen. How do you get a skin cell to do a push-up? We're going to show you. It helps to lift, tighten, and tone everything. The body, you put weight on it, doesn't care where the weight comes from, but it's going to respond to the increase of weight by fortifying its membrane with more protein. Now, the basic definition of exercise has been defined as the application of weight or stress on a certain part or function of the body over and over until that body part or function adapts by becoming stronger. Generally, we do that by opposing gravity. So if I were to lie down and do push-ups, what is the force I have to push away from? Gravity. If I'm doing pull-ups, sit-ups, leg lifts, same thing. We can apply the concept to the accepted aerobic activities of walking, jogging, and running. When I take my center of balance, which is right about here, it used to be a little further forward. But as I move that center of balance forward, I feel the force of gravity pulling down on me, causing me to take a step where I land on my nose. We can apply the concept of weightlifting. Weightlifting is simply taking a mass of something. Yeah, I can't take that one, it's covered with wires. And moving it away from gravity over and over. Now, as far as the body is concerned, do you think it cares how sophisticated the equipment is?
No.
It doesn't matter whether it's connected with pulleys, fulcrums, wheels, arms, cables, chains, or rubber bands. At the end of the cable, the chain, or the rubber band, you still have the weight or the resistance. And it is simply the weight or resistance on the cells that causes muscles to get bigger and stronger. Swimming is a great exercise, except for the chlorine. Yeah, that'll kill you. It just does a little bit at a time. But irrespective, what is it that pulls down on the water molecules, creating the density necessary to allow us to move through the water? Say gravity.
Gravity.
Gravity. So the common denominator then of all exercise is opposing the gravitational pull of the earth or creating some sort of a resistance. If that's the case, then all I really need to do to become stronger is to learn how to stand heavier. Like this.
There you go.
Not exactly. But I am going to show you a way you can stand heavier over 100 times a minute. The key to Cellercise was given to us as early as 1911 by Albert Einstein. He observed that the human body cannot tell the difference between the forces of acceleration, deceleration, and gravity. To the body is simply weight. Well, we understand the force of gravity, so let's consider a moment the forces of acceleration and deceleration. And let's admit these forces exist. And they have the same effect on virtually every body, because we're all made up of cells and they pretty much adapt the same way when challenged. Now, if you've ever been in a sports car and you have somebody punch that accelerator, you're going to feel the weight of acceleration pushing your body back into the seat. That's weight on the body. And when you come around the corner and you see the deer, you hit the brake or the decelerator, you feel the weight of deceleration pushing your body forward into the seat belt. Those forces are very obvious, but for whatever reason, the fitness industry never really has harnessed them before. The only thing I figured out is it's probably due to the fact we generally experience the forces of acceleration and deceleration horizontally, whereas we experience the force of gravity vertically. Most of us are not going to be going around town hitting the gas and the brake over and over to create this weight-bearing exercise. But what if we could line the forces of acceleration and deceleration up with gravity and combine three forces working on the body, not just one? We'd have a whole different methodology of exercise. All we would need is a piece of equipment that would allow us to harness those forces. And guess what? We got it. You're right. My portable gym. We call it the portable Cellerciser. You notice it is extremely portable. It was designed for that purpose. I take this with me in the overhead luggage bin of commercial airlines when I travel all around the world with it. This particular unit is mine. It's 10 years old. It's had tens of thousands of people use it, and I demonstrate with it because I want people to see the quality of this compared to typical, you've probably heard of rebounders or mini trampolines. This is not. This is a Cellerciser, and I'm going to explain the difference right now. To open it, it's real simple. Just lie it down, open up the zipper, pop it open. That's what it looks like. Just lie it down on the ground. In less time than it takes me to put on a tennis shoe, we're ready to begin Cellercising. The time that it takes somebody else to change their clothes, get in the car, drive on down to the health club, and start exercising, I'm already done. And you're going to learn why in just a moment. This mat material, this is unique. It's not made out of the canvas, nylon, or plastics you can find on typical rebounders or mini trampolines. Canvas, nylon, and plastic mats look the same, but the mat material stretches. When the mat stretches with the spring, you'll know because your feet will come to a stop and then they start to pronate. because the mat gives in addition to the spring. And when you land with your feet pronating over and over, that leads to ankle problems, knee problems, and lower back problems. So this is made out of a very special space-age material. It's a polypropylene where every fiber is put under nearly 200 tons of pressure. It's a lot of weight. You can leave this out in the sun, the rain, the snow. It doesn't matter. It's weather resistant. They make swimming pool covers out of it now because it's UV resistant. I use it because you land anywhere on this mat, it lifts you straight up. You land on a mat that stretches a little bit at an angle, it'll throw you off. So your foot, you cannot stretch this out. It'll support you. In addition, we have the triple tiered Triflex spring. That's a patented spring design. When I entered the industry back in the late 80s, early 90s, virtually every mini trampoline on the market was utilizing a little tube spring just like this. These little tube springs, they would stretch a little bit and they came to an abrupt stop or jar. The jarring effect was so severe it would often break the spring, but it could damage the person using it. I do not encourage people to try my exercises on a typical rebounder. My dad did that in 1995. He was permanently disabled. The jarring effect at the bottom of the stretch was so severe it put a bone fragment right through a nerve in his lower back. So that same year, Dr. Morton Walker warned doctors to avoid the units because the jarring effect was the same as landing on the floor. He just did it a moment later. None of NASA's research was based upon this technology. So in the mid-90s, early mid-90s, I introduced a tapered spring design. It had a larger diameter in the middle and gradually tapered. It's a totally different feel. It allowed the body to decelerate and accelerate through the gradual taper instead of coming to an abrupt stop or jar. Well, I introduced a tapered spring design, never patented it. I don't think I could have, but everybody else starts coming out with tapered spring designs. And they all look the same until you stand on them. If the steel is too weak, it can look the same, but when you stand on them, you sink. They call it a soft bounce. You sink so far that your feet can pronate. And again, it doesn't have enough pop or lift, and it's that pop or lift that opens up the circulatory system and creates that pumping action through the body. So I had to separate myself from the industry even further, and that's when we created the Triflex triple tier tapered spring. This is a patented spring design. It's the only self-adjusting type spring of its kind on the market. It has a larger diameter in the middle of the spring, and then a ridge where it tapers, and then another ridge for the last two coils where it tapers again. So whether you're 100 pounds and just utilizing the center portion of the spring, or you're 200 pounds or you're jumping higher and you need more spring, this spring adapts to the weight or the height that the person is jumping on. And that's important in order to do the exercises that we're going to show you. So the steel in our spring is so strong, it destroys conventional spring mold. So we had to create a tungsten steel mold just to be able to produce our spring. But that's what makes it work. I've never broken a spring, one of our springs, in over 20 years. I've never broken one, period. Okay. These springs do not connect directly into the frame. I don't wear the frame out. I drill 36 holes through the frame, put steel pins through the holes, and connect the spring to the pins. The frame will last virtually forever. That's what we want it to do. The rubber tips aren't a typical rubber. They're a polymer. They last for years. We've never worn one out. The legs don't screw on, so you don't have to constantly tighten them down. They don't get stripped or stuck. They fit over a steel post that are held into place by heavy-duty channel wire. One of the best wires you can get. Okay, I'm ready to demonstrate Cellercise. We're going quickly because I've got several things I want to talk about at the end of this. All right, I'm going to change into my Cellercise outfit, and that'll just take me a moment.
Oh, that's easy.
And we call it executive fitness the efficient way too, because if you're in a corporation or any kind of a business, you can use this to get rid of stress, tension, increase creative ability, open up circulation, and you don't have to break out into a sweat. You can actually do it in a suit. But, all right, as I stand here on the Cellerciser right now, I weigh approximately 160 pounds. That's the weight of gravity. But as I start to move just this high, a remarkable thing happens. I no longer weigh 160 pounds at the bottom of the bounce. I weigh closer to 200 pounds, or 1.25 Gs. Now we can measure that with a G meter. Do you know what a G meter is?
No.
Okay, many of you may have one in your own home. You get up in the morning, walk into the bathroom, step on it, look down at the needle, and some people even call it by name. Oh, G. It's a G meter. Okay, it measures G's, or the weight of gravity. If I were to put that G meter or bathroom scale on the Cellerciser and jump up and down on it, what would happen to the needle on the scale?
Go up and down.
You bet. It would fluctuate, registering the greatest amount of weight at the bottom of the bounce. Well, we know that 160 pounds comes from the weight of gravity. So where does the other 25% of additional weight that I am putting on this whole body, where's that weight coming from?
Gravity.
The forces of acceleration and deceleration. See, as I jump up and come down, I load the springs. That's known as the force of deceleration. The loaded springs then push me back up. That's known as the force of acceleration. Whenever we add the forces of acceleration and deceleration on the same vertical plane as gravity, we end up creating a whole new G-force that every single cell of our body is constantly being exposed to. So the question then becomes, well, what happens to the cells of your body when you alter or change the G-force? And part of that was illustrated very nicely by NASA. They discovered when the astronauts are floating around in outer space for a couple weeks, they can lose up to 15% of their bone and muscle mass simply because they don't have the weight of gravity to contend with. When they're up there for 2 to 3 months and they come down, they're not even allowed to stand up. They're helped out with a stretcher because the entire body is atrophied. NASA didn't have time to put weight on all these muscle groups or body parts to build them back up. What if they missed a part? They had to find a weight-bearing exercise that was on the entire body, every tissue, every cell. It was their research done on trampolines in the late 70s that led to the mini trampoline revolution. The problem was large trampolines created the G-forces, but they were dangerous. If you land on it at the wrong angle, it will throw you right off. So it wasn't useful, but the research was very interesting. The astronauts have the ability to use centrifuges now, which create G-forces. We can't afford millions of dollars worth of centrifuges. So what I did is I took the research of NASA and I applied it through a tapered spring design where we could utilize the forces of acceleration and deceleration, but without a jarring effect, and in a much more controlled environment. Trampolines are very slow. They're great for tricks, but again, if you land at an angle, it'll throw you right off. The Cellerciser moves up and down many more times per minute. It's much more intense, and you land on an angle, on a Cellerciser, it'll lift you straight up. So you're allowed to do a lot of different movements and have the support that you wouldn't get from a typical mini trampoline or a typical trampoline, period. All right. Doctors know bones and muscles heal faster and grow stronger when exposed to some stress. That's the idea behind the walking cast. Well, if I'm on a Cellerciser and I start to move up and down, how many cells of my body are moving up and down with me?
All.
Yeah, all 75 trillion. If we were to ask any physical therapist or doctor, what is the formula for strength? They're going to agree. It's stress times repetition. You stress a certain part or function of the body over and over, it adapts to becoming stronger. Well, as I'm moving up and down, since every cell of my body is moving up and down with me, what is my body, what are the cells going to have to do to compensate for the constant weight that I am putting on them?
Adapt.
They're going to have to adapt by becoming stronger. Tell me, do they have a choice? Isn't that exciting? You can stand there watching television. You're bouncing up and down. Your cells have your body has one of two options. It's either going to get stronger and stronger to compensate for the constant weight you're putting on it, or you're going to get shorter and shorter. You won't get shorter and shorter. But your body will get stronger. The physiological implications of the G-forces created on the body through the movement up and down would take me hours to go through. We don't have time for all of that. But I want you to use your imagination and just think in terms of most people live a static existence. They walk around like this all day long. Gravity is always pulling down on them. I had a lady wrote me a beautiful testimonial. She said, David, as I was hitting midlife, I felt like everything was headed south. She says, now that I've been Cellercising, I feel like everything's headed north again. Well, there's reasons for that. As the body gets weak and gravity pulls down, everything starts to sag. When you put it under more weight, it doesn't sag more. It becomes more resistant. It gets stronger to compensate for the increased amount of weight. That's what Cellercise does. Think in terms of what it's doing to the thyroid, to the adrenals, to the endocrine system, as you're gently moving up and down and all your internal organs are gently being massaged instead of just walking around like this all day long. As you challenge your balance and equilibrium, at any age, we're not born with balance. Balance has virtually nothing to do with age. It's a physiological function. We can challenge it at any age. We've done that. I've had a lady who's 91 years of age called me up and said, David, you should have seen me yesterday. She'd been on the Cellercise for 3.5 weeks. She says, I was on top of my rooftop repairing my own shingles, and you should have seen the neighbors. 91 years of age. We had a lady who's 94, featured on the front cover of Section E of the Seattle Times newspaper, telling her story, how it saved her life. She sent me a copy of the article. 94 years of age. Seattle Times had no idea what Cellercise was, but they heard about her and how old she was, and so they featured her. And she sent me a copy of the newspaper article. She's sitting lotus style on the Cellerciser, and in her letter she says that the Seattle Times has had more requests for copies and duplications of this article than of any other article they'd ever printed. My point being is, cells don't get old. There's nobody here over 7 years old. Cells are constantly replacing themselves. We'll go through an aging process. We don't have to go through the symptoms of the aging process. There's a big difference in weaknesses in the body versus having strong, healthy cells, which we can do at any age. When we have stronger, healthier, more efficient cells, we'll have stronger, healthier, more efficient body and functions. And that's, again, that's true at any age. I'm 58 years of age. I do this 10 minutes a day. I've been doing it for 25 years now, and I don't lift weights, so I'm not a bodybuilder. Every area of the body, I'm not 30 years old anymore, but you can tell that, you know, it's still in pretty good shape, and I can do the things that I was doing when I was 20 years old. I'm running around with 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. I'm having a good time. We can strengthen and improve the efficiency of our cells at any age, and as we do that, we'll do the same thing with our body parts and functions. There are graduated movements that we can take, and I'm gonna share some of those movements with you right now. The first thing I'll share is what I call cell aerobics. It's an aerobic exercise. There's nothing magic about the term aerobics. It simply means that all the cells of your body need oxygen to convert nutrients into energy, to be able to utilize nutrients and perform body functions. They receive the oxygen from the oxygen delivery system. We call it the cardiovascular pulmonary system. It's made up of your heart, lungs, arteries, capillaries, and veins. So an aerobic exercise is virtually any activity that stimulates this system to more efficient oxygen delivery. Now, most of us know that walking is as good an aerobic exercise as running. It just takes longer. But would this qualify as an aerobic exercise right here? You bet. And notice that the hips are allowed to drop down into the mat instead of hitting against a hard surface. So I don't have to worry about the back problems. In fact, it helps loosen up the lower back. And this is a great exercise. It's aerobic. How about this? Does this qualify as an aerobic? Oh, yes. You bet. And you can lift the knees up high. And you can do this if you're blind. If you don't have to worry about running into anything or anybody. So it's a vigorous aerobic activity. But there's nothing to stop you from doing this either. You do that for a few minutes, you'll have steam coming out of your eyeballs. It's a vigorous aerobic activity. But I left a few things out. Barking, biting dogs, rain puddles, potholes, carbon monoxide poisoning, curbs, mailboxes, and rollerbladers that jump out of nowhere. Okay, a study conducted by the University of Utah concluded that Cellercise helps to eliminate as much as 7/8 of the ballistic impact or jar to your skeletal system compared to running on a hard surface. So we don't have to worry about the ankle problems, knee problems, shin splints, and lower back problems. And we've replaced some of the negatives of aerobic activity with some of the more comfortable elements, such as being at home with the family, with the radio on, the television, that's how we do it, or air conditioning or heater, or simply a lock on the door for safety and privacy. And notice, one size fits all feet. So if you're not using it, your spouse can. If they're not, your children can. And if they're not, grandma and grandpa can use it. Let me ask you an important question. How many people need aerobic activity in their lives? We all do. How many people need the jar of hitting a hard surface? Guys, for those of you out there in Webbville who do a lot of jogging, it's great, except it's it's going to take far more out of you accumulatively than it's ever going to give you in return. So if you like jogging, you want to do it, and you want to have a good an opportunity to do it for a long time, Cellercise first to get circulation between the bones and joints, and Cellercise right after again to restore homeostasis or balance and circulation between the joints. Very important if you want to have a long, sustained career of jogging, for example. All right, that's an aerobic exercise. Next exercise is what I call the strength balance or mighty balance. We generally think of a strength exercise as a muscular activity because that's the way we've been taught. If I want to build up the bicep, if I took, say, 20, 30, 40% more weight and I applied it to this muscle 100 times a minute for 10 solid minutes, if I could do that. That's a great exercise for the muscle. Now you got to do it in all the other muscles, and most of us don't have time for that. But irrespective, generally, if I do the arm curls, I'm going to reach a plateau where it's pretty easy. So then I increase the weight, and I maintain the repetition, and the muscle gets bigger and stronger. And it works, but it tears down to build up. It builds a very different type of muscle. We've already determined that Cellercise is a weight-bearing exercise. So if I want to increase muscle mass and bone density by increasing the weight on the body, how could I increase the weight so the muscles will get bigger and stronger while Cellercising? Any idea? Jump higher? Just jump higher. See, the higher I jump, the faster I come down. The faster I come down, the more I load the springs. The more I load the springs, the greater the force of deceleration. The greater the force of deceleration, the greater the force of acceleration. You add the increased forces of acceleration and deceleration on the same vertical plane as gravity, you end up creating an entirely new G-force that every cell of my body is constantly being exposed to. So what are the cells going to have to do? They have to get stronger. Because if they didn't, I'd eventually get shorter. You don't get shorter, you do get stronger. Okay. See, all the other strength exercises just work muscles, and generally only one muscle group at a time. And while it is important to have strong and healthy muscles, isn't it also important to have strong and healthy connective tissues? Ligaments, tendons, bones, skin, biggest organ of the body. Cellercise helps to increase the strength to every cell of your body, cell by cell. Okay, I've been saving the best for last. It's great to have strong muscles. It's wonderful to have endurance. I think we can all agree it's most important we have our health. When we have our health, we can pursue our wealth and enjoy it. But when we lose our health, we'll expense our wealth trying to get our health back again. We've all known people in that position. I think that's what makes this next part of my presentation the most important message that I can give to everybody. And it's interesting because I kind of learned a lot about this through my daughter. I was on the Cellerciser one day, and I was doing my exercises, and she was still in her crib. And she's standing there holding on to the crib, and guess what she started to do? She started to bounce in the crib. And I started to think about that, and I realized I'd seen her do that before. And as I talked to other people, I began to realize that babies do that all over the world. It's natural, it's instinctive. They stand, they don't have balance, not yet. They have to challenge it. That's how we get it. But they get it, they get there and they start to bounce up and down. Tell me, does it end in the crib? Now they get out of the crib, they graduate. Now what do they jump on? Yeah, the couch or the bed. It's universal. What do? We kick them off, don't we? Yeah. I tell people if we knew better, not only would we encourage them to do it, we'd be up there doing it with them. Balance, rhythm, timing, dexterity, hand-eye coordination, the ability to learn faster and retain longer is all involved in those movements. But we do, we kick them off the couch or the bed and they begin to dance. Have you ever noticed how young people dance anywhere in the world? They're bouncing off the walls, let alone on the ground, up and down, but we get to a certain age and what happens? We stop bouncing up and down. We begin to live a horizontal existence. Even our dance becomes horizontal. And we do this day after day, year after year, with gravity always pulling down. We stop putting weight on the internal organs and the connective tissue surrounding them. They get weak. everything begins to fall. It's one of the reasons boxers do a lot of jump roping, is so that the movement up and down causes those connective tissues to firm up. When they get hit in the head, they don't want that brain slamming against the skull, causing a knockout. So they've got to support the connective tissues. Cellercise helps to support those connective tissues, and it does it from the inside out. But there's another reason that's so vitally important, and it has to do with hardening of the arteries. Hardening of the arteries is the #1 degenerative disease. As those blood vessels and capillaries begin to shrink, the arteries become harder, we lose circulation to body parts and functions, they begin to break down, and we think, okay, that's the symptoms of the aging process. Well, there are weaknesses in the body. And we can go a long way into helping to stop, reverse, and even prevent those conditions with the Cellerciser. If you look, can you see this vein here? If I flex the arm, can you see it? It just sits there, right? It doesn't do anything. If I walk around, it doesn't do anything, it just sits there. If I, wish I had more light, flex it, it doesn't do anything. But the moment that I get on the Cellerciser and I start to move up and down, see if you can see this. Can you see that pumping? Yeah. Okay. The movement up and down is causing it's back flushing the valves, cleaning out the valves, but opening up the blood vessels and capillaries throughout the entire body. Is that critical? How else are you going to do it? It is essential that we have that circulation. That's another advantage of the Cellerciser. But those pressure changes that are causing the blood vessels to expand and contract are also causing millions of one-way valves in the lymphatic system to open and shut too. Your lymphatic system, I'm going to stand back here because I'm afraid I'm cutting myself off from that camera. But the lymphatic system is also a circulatory system. It works its way throughout your entire body. But it's a system of tubes that rather than carry blood, it carries lymphatic fluid, which is basically water, away from tissue spaces of the body and back into the bloodstream. These lymphatic tubes begin at the lymphatic terminals. They're located in the toes, the fingertips, and other extremities of the body. These terminals, these little tubes, they work their way up to other small lymph vessels toward the lymph nodes, where the lymphatic fluid is cleaned. And then larger lymph vessels carry the lymphatic fluid back up toward what's called the thoracic duct. It's your largest lymph vessel, and in through the venous cava area, through what's the subclavian left vein, and back into the bloodstream. It's kind of like the branches of an oak tree working their way backwards toward the trunk, and into the roots, back to the soil, but in this case is back into our bloodstream. There's nearly 3 times as much lymphatic fluid in your body as there is blood. So virtually all the cells of your body are surrounded by this fluid. When the lymphatic system is circulating properly, it has the ability to flush or suck out the toxins, poisons, and metabolic waste that accumulate within the body, which lead to stress, distress, breakdown in communication, poor health, pre-aging, degenerative diseases, even death. Now, does everybody know who Captain America is?
Yes.
Okay. The Captain Americas are kind of like your lymphocytes are kind of like your Captain Americas. The lymphocytes are in your body, the representative of the 1% of the cells of your body devoted to your civil defense. They're your Captain Americas. They're devoted to keeping you alive and healthy. The lymphocytes utilize the lymphatic system to move throughout the body, seeking out and destroying viruses, germs, bacteria, fungus, dead cells, mutant cells, cancerous cells, and other foreign invaders. Dr. Arthur C. Guyton, in his book Medical Physiology, he's an MD, says that if the lymphatic system were to stop circulating for just 24 hours, we wouldn't be here. We'd all be dead. Which means if our lymphatic system is not circulating as well as it needs to be, given our current environment and the conditions we are being exposed to, we're going to be more prone to what? Yeah, disease and illness. And according to a number of lymphologists, if the lymphatic system were circulating as well as it potentially can, it would be almost impossible to get sick. Wow, that's a lot of potential. And irrespective, I think we can all agree it's important that we have good lymphatic circulation. I was in California one year and the term lymphatic pump came up. I thought, that's interesting. I've been looking all around the world for this. Can anybody show me where the lymphatic pump is? Because if that lymphatic system needs to be circulating well to keep me alive and healthy, I want to know where that pump is so I can take good care of it. Doesn't have one. Here you have a system that has a negative pressure. It has no pump. It is dependent upon pressure changes that keeps those one-way valves sucking and vacuuming out the internal environment of the body, cleaning it out so that the white blood cells can go after and destroy those foreign invaders. When you understand that, you begin to appreciate the dynamics of the cellerciser. The same pressure changes that are causing those valves to backflush and open up blood vessels, those same pressure changes are literally activating millions of one-way valves in the lymphatic system. So when I get on a cellerciser and I start to move up and down just like this, I literally create a vacuum system of suction within just a few minutes that is pulling that circulation in between bones, joints, and tissue spaces throughout the entire body. It cleans the body out. That's its job. So every morning when I wake up, I'll get on the cellerciser, and for 2 to 3 minutes I do this baby bounce right here. I believe this is the most important physical activity we can do. If you could look at your blood and underneath the microscope when you first wake up, with most people, we're going to have what's called sticky blood. Blood cells have a tendency to clump together. They don't circulate as well. They're not in as a good condition. They don't have access to oxygen and nutrients as effectively either. And so you wake up kind of feeling sluggish when you first wake up in the morning. We get on a cellerciser, in those first 2 to 3 minutes, I'll notice any puffiness around the eyes disappear because I get the fluid moving again. I get everything circulating. When you sleep at night, it's not circulating nearly as effectively. And I get it all going. I'm stimulating the thyroid, the adrenals, the endocrine system, liver, kidney, spleen, gallbladder, pancreas. Everything is doing this collectively over 100 times a minute. And in 2 to 3 minutes, I'm wide awake. That's it. It's a great feeling. But your blood, if you can look at your blood underneath the microscope, after you've been on it for 3 to 5 minutes, your blood cells become separated, oxygenated, and energized. They're in a totally different state. Your body functions are working better. Is that important? Most people, if they try Cellercise, it becomes part of their day-to-day routine for the rest of their life. It makes a huge difference. It's made a huge difference in me. So 2 to 3 minutes of the baby bounce, and then I do my aerobics. I count to 100, and just 1, 2, 3 generally, or I'll go for a minute and see how many I can do in a minute. Then I do my calisthenics. When I began, I wanted to flatten my stomach. A vanity thing. But I did, and we're going to talk about, if you know anybody there in Webville, call your friends up. If you know anybody, women, if you know anyone who's got cellulite, they're going to want to see this movement in just a minute. We have women who've gotten rid of their cellulite in as little as 2 to 3 weeks. It's intense, it's phenomenal, it grows in capillaries, it burns calories very quickly, and if you know people that have back problems, digestion, elimination issues, we're going to address that too. So when I began, I wanted to flatten the stomach. Now, generally, we are taught to build stomach muscles by doing sit-ups, right? It works, but it's very limited to a very small group of muscles in the stomach wall, and it can actually cause more back problems as well, because it's just so limited, it pulls on the back. Well, with the typical sit-up, again, you're moving the body weight against gravity. But with a Cellerciser, and this is what makes it so unique, we have a balance bar that attaches to the unit. You can hold on to the balance bar with both hands. So you can do these different movements and start off very gently, just like a baby, until we get better balance and circulation and strength and confidence, and then we put more effort into the routine. Well, for the stomach, you can literally jog and then tilt. As I tilt, all these muscles are tight now. And they're gonna, every time I come down, they have weight on them. If I want to leverage more weight to build up the muscles, I do this. Now, every time I'm coming down, that's a lot of weight, a lot more weight than just doing a sit-up. How many other cells of my body are still flexing?
Long.
All of them. Every single cell of the body, even in an altered angle, every cell has a G-force. Every cell is expanding and contracting collectively through the entire body all at the same time, not just certain areas of the body. So this one here strengthens the entire front area of the body all the way down. If you want to tighten underneath the chin, then you take your 15, 20-pound head and tilt it back. Now every time I come down, all the muscles are having to flex hold my head up. And that starts to tighten and strengthen these muscles. If you want to, anybody have love handles?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody love them? Okay.
They're hate handles.
That's right. Yeah, well, they were one of the hardest things for me to figure out. How do I deal with these? And then I figured it out. Holding on to the balance bar. I've seen people do things like this, and it was supposed to help strengthen this area of the body, and it's, okay, you'd have to do a lot of those. On a Cellerciser, we leverage more weight simply by holding onto the bar, and we kick our legs out side to side. Every time I come down with one leg up, I'm putting a lot of weight right here, and you can feel it when you're actually doing it. To strengthen the lower back and the buttocks, you can lean forward, hold on to the balance bar. For my hips, I simply kick back, just like this. Every time I come down, I'm putting the weight right there. That helps to strengthen, lift, tighten, and tone the buttocks and strengthen the lower back. The second most important exercise I teach, this is the most important. I believe everybody needs this. Create homeostasis, balanced circulation collectively through the entire body with all the internal organs working collectively. There's so many reasons to do this movement every single day. You'll see babies, or parents do it with babies when they're fussy. Instinctively, they take a baby, put them over their shoulder, gently bounce the baby up and down. There's a reason for that. The baby likes it too, but it helps release stress, tension, increase circulation, and help the body relax. If you ever have a hard time sleeping at night, get on the Cellerciser. Put your fingertips straight down. Gently move up and down until you can feel the pressure at the tips of the finger. When you feel it, then relax, shoulders, back, and buttocks.
Can you hold a baby and do that?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. In fact, let's talk about
I have a
that.
month-old.
Yes. We've got a new distributor who's got twins.
Oh, yeah.
And she did it just last week. This just happened last week. She put one of her babies down on the Cellerciser, and she gently bounced the baby up and down. Baby loved it. Baby went to sleep the entire night. She thought, oh my.
I'm doing that.
I'm so she said maybe it was just a fluke. She did it again the next night. One of the babies slept through the entire night. So she did it to both babies. Both of them slept through the entire night.
Oh my goodness.
They leaked through the diapers, she said, because they didn't get up. And it continued all week long. And you're welcome to talk to her. But great way to burp a baby, and the baby won't burp. Great way to get rid of indigestion if you have it too. But here's the thing: when a baby has a fuzz, or when a parent has a fuzzy baby and they wake up at night, and if you pick them up and you're trying to get them to relax, you put them back down, then you go to bed, and you're laying there wide awake. I can't get back to sleep. I remember those days. But when you get the baby on the Cellerciser with you and you gently bounce both of you up and down, you're releasing stress and tension in you. And then lay the baby down, and then you just do this for just a couple moments, relax everything, and immediately go to bed. You don't have to toss and turn to get rid of the stress or tension now. It's gone. I've had some great testimonials on that. Okay, so the second most important. Digestion, elimination processes are critical for good health. And there's virtually nothing out there that's really addressing the smooth muscles like this. Lower back problems. We're told 80% of Americans are going to have lower back problems to contend with. I know what that's like. I've been through that. I was 5'10" and a half my entire adult life. I'm now 5'11" and a quarter, 3/4 of an inch taller. I've been measured by 3 doctors and 1 attorney. So I lecture and I tell people, I'm not the only one this has happened to. Imbibing the disc is something most people don't understand how to do, and I'm going to show you some techniques that are designed to help increase circulation to those discs, which is vitally important to keep the flexibility in the disc and to keep the fluid in the disc. The discs lose natural circulation by the time we're about 19, 20 years old, and if we don't increase circulation to the disc is like a sponge without water. It begins to shrink. Increase circulation to the disc, again, they can literally start to expand, like a sponge getting water. So it's real important we know how to do that, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. But spreading the feet apart a little bit, we bend at the knees slightly. Keeping our back straight, we lift our heels up and down. Most of us eat every day, right? So every day, I put my colon, my intestines, through a little washing machine. And it helps to improve digestion, elimination processes. So as I'm moving up and down and side to side, I help to improve the ability of the body to utilize nutrients, break up the mucous membrane lining that accumulates within the intestinal walls, which prevents us from being able to absorb nutrients effectively. Because of all the preservatives, additives, chemicals, and things we're exposed to in our food, it irritates the inner lining of the intestines, causing inflammation. So the body protects itself with a mucous membrane that accumulates to protect it, but it also prevents us from being able to have access to a lot of the nutrients that we need. So this one here helps break up that mucous membrane lining and improve the ability of the body to absorb the nutrients. It's also taking the liver, kidney, spleen, gallbladder, pancreas, and the adrenals every day, and you're massaging them. We don't get that in our normal day-to-day activity. So again, most people begin to feel like a whole different person in 2 to 3 weeks from cellercising, because the body parts and functions are working more efficient. Also helps to loosen up the lower back just by doing the gentle twist. You can work the upper back too, simply by moving your arms. And then I'm going to talk about the hips, the thighs, inner outer thigh, and lateral knee, both sides of the knee, which is so important and most people are not spending enough time addressing the knee support. We end up with knee problems, hip problems, back problems, and shoulder problems because of weaknesses or injuries in the supporting muscles and ligaments. When we address the supporting muscles and ligaments and strengthen them, very often the condition disappears. So we stand on a cellerciser, we step across back and forth just like this, but we add a little hop to it. So you can hold on to the bar if you want. But as I'm hopping side to side, I'm working the hips, the thighs, and the knees. This is easy, you can do it watching TV. But if you want to do it even more intense, you can put your feet together and go skiing. This is the same burn feeling you would have if you were on the slopes. And I do this every day, it's part of my routine. Okay, the Jamba run. Anybody want to know about Jamba run? All right, here's the Jamba run. The Jamba run, well, let's talk about weight loss. A lot of people out there today want to lose weight. And there's really only 3 ways to do it. We stop eating, that's one way. We don't recommend that. You increase metabolism, which we can do, and you burn calories faster than you're bringing them in, which we can also do. The biggest muscles of the body have the greatest demand, and they give us the fastest results. Where are they located? That's right, the thighs and the buttocks. So virtually all aerobic activities, to be effective, you'll see them utilizing these big muscles. Well, the Jamba run is something that we all develop a love-hate relationship with it. We love it because it works, we hate it because it is tough. These muscles are so big, they have a great demand for fuel. And the way that we do this is, and you can only do it on a cellerciser, is you keep your back straight, your feet flat, you bend to the knee, which puts the weight on the thigh. Don't lean forward because it takes the weight off the thigh, it gets soft. The legs get soft. But if you keep your back straight, they're working. Now you're going to run as fast as you can without lifting your feet up off the mat. You won't last 20 seconds. It goes just like this. These muscles are so big, they have such a great demand, they're going to be burning in just moments. And they're going to go after the glucose and the sugars, the most readily available energy sources first. Well, after the first set, you stand there, lift the heels up and down, get your wind or your breath back, and as those calf muscles are pumping, they're feeding oxygen, blood flow back to the thighs, priming them with more fuel. Then you do it again. Well, pretty soon, you're out of glucose and the sugars, and so the body needs more fuel. What's it going to do? It's going to have to go after the fat. It has to go after the white adipose tissue. But the thing is, and you can do repetition, the women who got rid of their cellulite in 2 to 3 weeks, they were doing repetitions of the Jamba run for almost 20 minutes a night watching Friends on TV. So that's just, my daughter did the same thing. She lost 10 pounds in a month, and I had to tell her, stop, back off. She totally changed her physique and had to get a whole new wardrobe. She's ecstatic about it, she's ecstatic, but her metabolism, as she knows it just shot through the roof. This will increase metabolism. I had to stop doing it as much as I was demonstrating it too, because my metabolism, I went to the doctors because I dropped down to 3% body fat. I go to these shows And for 2.5 days, I'd be up showing people how to do this, and I wouldn't do it very long, I'd just show them how to do it. But every time I showed them, guess what my metabolism did? It just shot right up. I wasn't sleeping at night, I wasn't tired. I was eating 2 dinners, I couldn't put on any weight. I went to the doctors, they did a full physical on me, and they said, David, you're in great shape, you got the metabolism of a 19-year-old. I said, that's not normal for me. That's just your body type. No, it wasn't. It was the Jamba run. I stopped doing as much of the Jamba run, and my wife can testify of this. It took me a month to get my rear end back. But it all came back, and it's a very wonderful, intense exercise. Okay, we're going to do a quick little demo, and you haven't been on this for a while, have you, Cellercise? Come on up, watch this. This is fun. You'll like this. She's in good shape. And what I want you to do, what's your name again?
Mariela.
What is it?
Mariela.
Mariela.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, Mariela. What I want you to do is take your feet and spread them apart. Okay, keep your back straight, bend at the knee. Take your hands, put them in front of you like this. Perfect, elbows right there. Excellent. Okay, remember that position. We're going to come back to that. Okay, Mariela, I'm going to push down on your hands. I want you to attempt to stand there without moving. So you're going to resist me with everything you can. And just try not to move. Okay, ready? Okay, you resist. And as I push down, see how you immediately step forward? Those are imbalances in the body. Virtually everybody here has them except those who Cellercise. I know. Okay, do it again. And elbows on this side. Now you know what I'm going to do is just try as hard as you can. I'm going to push. Feel how hard I have to push. Okay, ready? Okay, resist. As I push, not very hard, huh? Come on up here. And it doesn't matter, whatever you want. Okay, now what I want you to do is take your hands, put them on the trapezius muscles right here. Hold on to these muscles with your fingertips. These are the muscles that help hold up our posture. When those muscles get weak, the skeletal system can't support itself, so the shoulders begin to droop. They're also the muscles where we get a lot of stress and tension. So holding on to these muscles, I want you to bounce up and down. Perfect, keep going. Can you feel those muscles expanding and contracting with weight on it? Isn't that weird? Okay, she's putting weight on it, keep going. At that height, she's taken about 10 to 15% of her body weight, putting it on top of her. She's doing over 100 of these a minute. But instead of pushing the weight away from gravity, she's increasing the weight of gravity. Her body doesn't want to get shorter. It has to get stronger to compensate. It's all weight. Okay, now grab the deltoids. These are the shoulder muscles right here. Perfect. Squeeze them with your fingertips. And can you feel those muscles flexing? Quite a bit? Yes, it is. If you have shoulder problems, this is one of the techniques that I teach that helps open up the rotator cuff, increase circulation and flexibility again in the shoulders. Wonderful exercise, and I teach different movements for that specific. Okay, now, people say, how do you build up a bicep jumping up and down on a Cellerciser? I said, you put weight on the bicep. How do you do that? So the light hasn't gone on yet. It's going to. All right, grab the biceps with your fingertips and bounce up and down. Can you feel the weight on the muscle? Yeah, that's it. It's weight bearing. Those muscles are either going to flop to the bottom of the mat, or they're going to have to get stronger to compensate for the weight that's on them. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. Now take the hands, dig them around your waist, dig into the stomach muscles with your fingertips, hold on to the muscles in there, bounce up and down. Can you feel them flexing? Yeah. Mariela's doing 100 sit-ups a minute. She's still doing 100 of these a minute. She's doing 100 of these a minute. She's giving herself a facial. All the facial muscles have weight on it, collagen, everything. The whole body has no option. It's weight bearing, so it has to become more resistant to the weight. That's how it works. Her internal organs are moving up and down, and the connective tissue surrounding them is starting to firm up. So the entire body is literally expanding and contracting over 100 times a minute with weight on it. And is she favoring one side of the body over the other? Interesting. Let's see what the implications are. If your hips are out of alignment, which is very common, but you're moving them down equally, the hips gently move, muscles move, so the body can support its own natural alignment. Feet, the same thing. We do it in bare feet, or socks or slippers if you want, soft sole slippers, because the foot needs to be flexible. And shoes are restrictive, and we end up with all kinds of foot problems because we lose the flexibility in the foot. Cellercise helps to restore flexibility in the foot again. Okay, let's gently step down and take the same position. Okay, elbows on this side, just like you did. Okay, well, I'm going to try it just like I did last time. And you tell me if you notice any difference in your strength and balance this time.
No pressure.
Okay. just try. Okay, ready? Resist. Is that amazing? That's great. Now, she'll keep that strength and balance with her for hours until one of two things happens. She either hits a hard surface, like jogging or an aerobic impact sport, that shatters the nervous system, causes the muscles to tense up, and exposes all the imbalances again. However, after about a month and a half to 2 months of cellercising, if you do it every day, you're not only balanced, you become strong in a balanced state because you're exercising in a balanced state. Then you hit a hard surface, it doesn't matter. I've had the opportunity and privilege of teaching SWAT teams, police departments, military personnel, because Cellercise and athletics, Cellercise gives people a distinct advantage over the average person who doesn't really understand how to exercise the body collectively as a whole. They do it as parts. So their bodies never really it can't reach its greater balance potential. Think of the implications of this for anybody that likes to play golf. I've done celebrity golf tournaments where right there, I'll stay on one of the holes and they'll come up with their cart and they're professional golfers with them, and there's a group of them and they're all playing golf, and I'll have them cellercise for a few moments and then hit the ball, and it's like, wow. I could tell you countless stories, but it doesn't matter. Age has nothing to do with it. Cellercise, we start off like a baby. Gentle baby bounce, rock side to side, do the gentle twist, build up to all these various different movements. The neat thing about Cellercise is it improves circulation, balance, rhythm, timing, dexterity, hand-eye coordination at any age. And it improves body parts and functions. You want to feel healthier, you want to have more energy, you want to be able to perform better, you want better mental clarity, open up oxygen, blood flow to the brain. That's what Cellercise does. Gravity restricts it over time, but Cellercise opens everything back up again. So that's what we want. We want people to experience it. You can try it for 30 days. There's more that I teach. We don't have time to talk about it tonight. We've got some great products within Q Sciences. Cellercise is one of them. We also talk about how the cells communicate with each other, and we provide the proper minerals that allow the cells to communicate effectively, so weaknesses in the body often just disappear. We give the proper nutrients to the body. We communicate with the cells of the body. They communicate with us too. But cells are transmitters and receivers. That's how they communicate. They use minerals to transmit and receive, but we can communicate with the cells as well. We've got something called Q MindFit, which we wear, that literally helps you communicate with your body and your brain so that your body responds. Phenomenal product, new technology. That's also available. So there's several different products that are all designed to help you reach your greater health potential. And I will draw a line on the whiteboard. I don't know if you can see this on the internet or not, but I'll draw a line and I'll say this side represents illness and this side represents health. Where are you in relationship to this line? Because most of us, we go to the doctor when we're sick. We don't go to the doctor to say, hey, how can I become healthier? That's what we offer at Q Sciences. So if we're close to this line and we're on the health side, many people are so close to the line, the moment they exercise, they feel sick. The moment they're under a little stress, they get sick. They're too close to the line. There's other people that are on this side, chronic illness, that are taking medications to try to feel better. But it's a dead end. It's never going to help the body naturally perform its function. Through a natural process, and Cellercise is a part of it, our objective is to help you move further this direction from the line, so that if you are sick, you bounce back very quickly. And many people are sick, they've been sick around me all year long, and I have not been sick. And I'm very grateful, thank you. But I know that the Cellerciser strengthens cell membranes, making them more resistant to viruses. That's another advantage of Cellerciser. So I've got to close, but I'd like to close with this idea. If your cells could communicate with you in a language that we understood, I suggest you would wake up every morning, get out of bed, walk into the bathroom, look in front of the mirror, and on your forehead it would read, please shake well before using. Thank you very much. Are there any questions that I can answer while I'm getting